Well, hello there, and may the force be with you. Welcome back to another episode of Cuzzo-Op here in Star Wars month. You have joined in for episode 65, and I am tonight's host. My name is Isaiah, also known as IV around the way, and I'm joined by my brother and my co-host,
Willie, also known as Arrow to the Face.
Yes, sirski, and we are here for yet another episode on Star Wars content, lore. If you don't know, we're in the process of celebrating Star Wars month. For May 4th, we dropped an episode talking about how to jump into Star Wars 101, getting into Star Wars. If you want to know how you should start up joining this universe and participating in this culture, you can definitely listen to that episode. And then we also dropped an extra actually this week, and the extra is this is the first time we dropped one of those just extra content that comes from the process of recording. So we're all about Star Wars. It feels like Star Wars was a great way to begin that new thing, and I'm excited to continue the conversation today, tonight, this afternoon, whenever it is you're listening. Willie, are you excited about today's conversation? I mean, it's not as big and gargantuan as our last, but it's still talking about some big things. What you think, bro? What you think?
Hey, man, I know I'm definitely excited for tonight's conversation, bro. I just think that, we've had tales, previously in Star Wars. And so I'm excited to hear your thoughts, because this is the first time where we'll be able to just go back and forth about what we think of these kind of, smaller shows, these smaller Star Wars productions, because Star Wars is usually so big and bang that
Right.
These small ones, they have room to be big in their own, So
Yeah,
I'm really excited to hear your thoughts, because, if you listen to our extra, the kind of stuff that Isaiah likes to see. Right. And I feel like he got some of that here. And yeah, so absolutely. I'm always excited for new Star Wars content.
For sure, bro. I mean, the Tales of the Jedi, right? Released. When was that? That was 22 or 23?
23, I believe.
23,
it was 23, or it might have been fall 22.
And it seems like they're doing this pass off of the Tales and the Visions with the new anthology seasons, letting creators get their own little bite out of the Star Wars universe with different animation styles. And I love that. I love that this lore is being fleshed out. And if, like you said, if you listen to our extra and we talked about the sequel trilogy, you know that there's this war in Star Wars lore between the old and the new. And I think that Filoni is masterful these days in the way that he is gauging the tension, suggesting new concepts without undermining the old. How do you honor everything that's come before while pushing it to new places and innovating? And I think that Tales of the Empire is another branch of that type of a concept, right? And so let's break it down. Now, if you watched, we didn't do an episode on Tales of the Jedi. So if you watch those 6 episodes, we got 6 episodes that fill in some of the backstory of Count Dooku and where he went wrong. And then we also got some background of Ahsoka, some of the training, just little gaps in her training arc and her beginnings. And it's beautiful because you get 2 characters juxtapositioned and different decisions that they make, which have to do with influence of the Force, them being Force sensitive and trying to figure out what's right and what's wrong and what parts of their hearts they give into. And that's why Tales of the Jedi is so good, right? You get this, Ahsoka's obviously one of the most legendary Jedi ever. And Count Dooku becomes one of the most legendary bad guys from a particular trilogy. So at the end of the day, you can go wrong or you can go right. And I love how they continued that concept here. It was masterful, bro. I honestly think this is the perfect type of medium for these types of stories. I don't think that you could do it any better, in my opinion. What about you?
For Tales of the Jedi, I mean, I would love for us to sit down one day and have a conversation solely on that. For those 2 characters,
we're gonna have to go back.
You know what I mean? But for my own piece, Tales of the Jedi was so interesting because you have these 2 characters who are walking along the same lines. Tales of the Jedi, they could have showcased characters that were all, holding hands with the Jedi Order all the way till death. But no, they chose to focus on two characters that had become kind of disillusioned within the Order, and how they, at one point at the crossroads, took different routes and where those routes could go. Right. And so Tales of the Jedi was so interesting because it didn't give you the easy Jedi to handle. And then they took us into places we never thought we would see, a young Qui-Gon Jinn and a birth of Ahsoka Tano, and Ahsoka was here during this point in the movie, And then when we get to Tales of the Empire, when this trailer dropped, we were sitting here like, they switching the Tales up, because we thought we were still getting more Jedi, but now they going, who? Oh, they going to, her from the Clone Wars? Oh, okay. And so what are we getting here now?
Yeah.
Because we thought we knew what we were getting with Jedi, because you had set up something and now you switching it up. So
that's right.
My biggest thing coming into Empire was, what am I going to see? Why do these stories need to exist?
Yes,
right?
That's it.
What is the purpose? What is the purpose that you chose out of all the characters? Because there's thousands of characters you could have chosen to do a story on. These two characters.
Yeah.
And that's where I kind of entered to this series, man. I was excited. I was.
Same, bro. I mean, I had not finished watching Tales of the Jedi yet. When I started this, I watched bits and pieces. You told me to go back, watch episode 5 so I could see the training, then see what happens in the Siege of Mandalore or when Order 66 launches. That was all great, and that's what this should be about. If we're going to talk about what's it for, it should deepen these concepts, deepen these characters. Now, let's talk about these characters. Morgan Elsbeth is one of the more recent characters we've been exposed to in a live action sense. She is the Night Sister that is working very closely with Admiral Thrawn. And so we get to see her story, how she became what she became. And let's jump right in. Let's jump into her arc to start. Okay. We go with episode 1, which is The Path of Fear. I like titles with arcs, with Path of Hate, Path of Fear, Fire. I was already in there off the title alone. I was like, I'm geeked. Not to mention, this is one of the shows where they let the title come on later. Like stuff happened, then the title popped up.
Yeah.
Fire. So cool. I love how they did that. But let's jump in. So Elsbeth, we see that the Night Sisters in episode 19 of season 4 of the Clone Wars, they are wiped out. They are attacked by General Grievous and the drones. And what's wild is I love this right from the beginning because it's gruesome like that. Oh snap. I just tuned into some Tales of the Empire. First 3 minutes, I'm seeing people get bladed up. They getting killed, murdered, massacred. And a lot of not that it's not serious, but a lot of the depictions of General Grievous and the drones are comical. They're lighthearted. They're serious, but when they're fighting Jedi, it's like y'all ain't even a threat.
Like when Grievous is going up against Obi-Wan Kenobi, they have a snappy back and forth, but at the end of the day, Obi-Wan can force push him across the room. You know what I'm saying?
100%.
There's something different when you got no Jedi on the battlefield and you have warriors that don't know how to fight. Because at the end of the day, Grievous, all due respect to him, like he got lightsaber training from Count Dooku. He was trained.
Yeah.
You got to put some respect on his name.
Absolutely.
He was scary in this. He was scary in this. And it was nice to see that because he is so often the comic relief of, look at him running away again. No. He is still the general of this army, and he's going to do some scary things when you're not watching from a, Obi-Wan Kenobi perspective. It was glorious, and it reminded me of the 2003 Clone Wars series where he first popped off onto the scene. So
man,
it was an opener.
I think it was a strong opener for a short series. I was like, dang, I'm overwhelmed, and I think that overwhelming feeling is important. It's important for us to understand the path of hate, the path of fear, the path of anger. For us to understand it, we had to be met with this intense moment. She watches her mother die. Boom. It starts something. It begins something. And what I also liked was this deepened the Night Sister trauma for me. We see Marin, we see Ventress, we see other Night Sisters later, but we only know so much about their origins based on what they tell us, things we see in the games, in the shows. And to see it happen in this format, it gave it the room to breathe. Now, the trauma, how did they let it breathe? Well, we know that she makes her way over to the Mountain Clan, which is another set of Night Sisters. And I also love this. Well, we think that they are, right? We know that by the end of the episode, they wield some level of power that's white and light instead of green and dark. And it makes me go, ooh, so what's up with it? Is this like the Jedi version of the Night Sisters within this planet and realm? Like, what's up with it? Like, I was so intrigued. I was like, who are these people? Are they nomads? Are they Aang? Are they like not down to fight? Like, what's going down? I was already in me. I'm like, what's going on? Why is she alive? But then there were these little elements and nuances introduced via this contrast. Oh, that I just thought was so good. Here's a couple of the things I loved. One, I love that her tattoos began to fade. The tattoos weren't as distinguished as they were, and they continue to lose how distinguished they are as the episodes go on. And I thought maybe that there was some level of like, oh, she's hiding who she is or where she's coming from, but that's not congruent with her character. She's proud of who she belongs to. She feels she needs to stand for the Night Sisters as one of the remaining survivors, Elsbeth. So I'm like, nah, bro, her power leaving her, or her being far from the genesis in the beginning of her power, is causing the physical changes in her actual face. Seeing the difference from that opening clip to her waking up with I was like, oh, they're trying to cook. They're trying to go crazy. I was geeked. I was so geeked, bro. I thought that was such a fire point. Such a fire point. I have more, but I'll pass it because I'll talk all night. Tell me what you thought about the Mountain Clan and where this kind of went for this episode.
I mean, for starters, when the woman in charge of this Mountain Clan did her little solar flare,
yeah,
I was stunned. I was like, yo, what is she, bro? What is that? Like, I love expanding on the lore.
Yeah. Right?
You got the fact that Dathomir is home to the Night Sisters, but is also home to Darth Maul. And you consider the fact that, Maul was dropped in Phantom Menace, and here's a whole lore based on the planet he's from and the people of that planet. And the fact that the Force itself isn't just the only thing out there. There's actual witchcraft and magic and things like that.
Right.
And so what people try to dive into understanding the Force, there's a whole other textbook out there for the magic. And what can that do? So that thought process and seeing it, I was like, yo, I want to know more. I want to see that more because I'm stunned. And then she delivers that fire ass line talking about just because I'm not fighting, and I'm not saying it exact.
Right.
It don't mean I don't know how to.
It don't mean I can't do it.
Don't ever think that because someone doesn't, it doesn't mean they don't know how.
Yeah.
And that's beautiful. That was awesome to me because it's like, it's so very true.
Yeah.
And we see that in some of the greatest Star Wars characters. Like, I'm not going to pull my saber out until you make me. And when you make me, you're going to regret it. Like,
right.
So her character was cool as the leader of this tribe that we kind of need more info on.
I liked that. I think when she woke up and she tried to get these people to join her in how she feels, that's a common concept, right? When we talk about the title of The Path of Fear, it's that fear and a need for family and a need for covering of other people and a need to belong somewhere, even if she has to get you to be afraid with her in order to join her in arms. That's out of the trauma she experienced seeing her mom just die in front of her and her people be slayed. This is a first building block in this initial episode, and we see that continue to be stacked on as the next couple episodes go. Right. And yeah, bro, that alien aspect that you're saying is also very fire. Did you even see that? How like when they talk, when they doing their spells, the captions don't even give like translation. That joint just says alien language.
Right.
And so now I'm like, shit, Ahsoka's in a whole nother galaxy. and then goes to the core of these people, somewhat might be the core or a little closer to where they come from in that season of Ahsoka. I'm like, yeah, they really are aliens. That's aliens in Star Wars. That's so
yeah,
tough.
like
so
it is crazy. I mean, titles matter, and I'm going to explain it as we get to the end of Morgan's story, but fear, watching her mom die, led to the anger that pushed her this entire episode. So that anger, we already see. We didn't wait till the second episode to see it. We see that here.
Right.
And we see that she is warned. You have a future ahead of you that is dark.
Yep.
And you should watch out.
Yep. Your path is already set.
And, you know, like I said, I'll explain it fully in at the end of that third episode. But this first episode, I thought it was a nice, cool, calm opener. I thought it was a nice. It was cool. It was cool.
Yeah. So then let's jump into episode 2, right? Path of Anger. So now we see years later, we know that Morgan becomes the magistrate of Corvus, and we know about Corvus because we see Corvus in Mando
season 2.
We see Corvus in the beautifully Japanese film homage style episode of that season, and it's cool to see it in this animated form. But before we even get to the town, we enter in on Morgan giving a presentation of the TIE Defender, which we know makes a big, big impact later on in the story. So it's very cool. This is another place where it's like Filoni's masterful at pacing his pen. He'll put little tiny details that it's like for the Star Wars fans. So to hear them be like, it's too expensive, it's just too much. It has so many different pieces to it for us, because it's like, damn, right. Thrawn, we know Thrawn jacks that. We know the inconvenience of that expense and how it kneecaps him for being too ambitious. But we also know that ambition wasn't headed in the wrong direction. Right. It ends up being major later on. So I'm like, yo, this is crazy. They cooking while she got her diagrams.
I saw it and I was like, damn, I remember those from Rebels, and I know where that leads to. Mm-hmm. And I know you know where it leads to too, with you know our Rebels GOAT, but
the GOAT,
just to see her right actually be in accordance with the Empire's rules, because we knew she was a follower of Thrawn, but to actually see her standing in the like ship in uniform talking, it was very like interesting. That's a I didn't expect that from this character, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, man, the opening was also really cool, just as a Star Wars nerd, to point out that, 2 Venators fly in, which are the main ships used in the Republic era, and then an Imperial Star Destroyer follows, and that gives you a picture of this isn't later. This is in midst of the transition between Republic to Empire. So she was brought on board early.
That's right.
So it's a nice way to kind of get a clear sense of the timeline, because it was cool to see those 2 ships be on screen together.
Absolutely.
But
it's a minor detail. It doesn't say a lot, obviously. It's all spoken in nuance. But if you want to appreciate it and reference it, it's there. And that's what a lot of this is about. Why do these episodes exist? To beef up the storylines, to give you nuance, but in a way that's very refined and very mature. And so,
And we also see on the ship, she's contacted by Pelion, who, you know, we've seen before in Mando season 3. And so we know that connection is still there. It's all about the connecting web. So now we're in the Path of Anger, title of this episode. And hey, I mean, I'm going to let you take it from here, but it's just nice to see the webs connecting and who was in the what rooms and how these characters get to be connected with one another.
So what is this anger? Well, what's funny is I think there's this, it's sad. The whole thing is actually quite sad. If you take the emotion of sadness and the trauma she experienced watching her people be wiped out, her mother be killed, that's a sad thing. Her leading those other girls from the Northern Clan, or the Mountain Clan, astray till their deaths, that's sad. It's actually quite sad. This is also sad because what you see is when she returns back down to her town in Corvus, these people are who she thinks is her people. She's trying to make her people again, yet again, like we saw her do when she was like, they're gonna come after us, let's fight. and they're turning on her because it's not going the way that they want it to go. They're afraid of her. The fear that we were introduced to last episode, they also have that as well. There's this symbiotic relationship that they have going on. And once things go sideways, everyone doesn't care for her. And that initiates and triggers anger in her again. And it's like, yo, you're not even really my people. You don't give a ish about me. I helped you fortify your land. I gave you designs. I gave you my brilliant mind. I've been building for you. And you just going to call me witch? That's sideways type, right? But then what I love, this is my favorite scene in the whole episode. When night hits and we see Rook, and Rook comes out, and we as Rebels fans go, wait, I seen him before. What? Well, shoot. I seen him throw. I know where it's going. But my favorite scene was when, I guess, like the mayor or the leader of the people, the Asian guy, I don't know what his name is. He goes, they go, call the guards. And he goes, nah, don't call the guards. That line right there was really revealing. It was like, man, they're just as willing to watch her die as Grievous was to kill her people. It's like, who's really good in this situation? That's what's so cool about how the nuance of the story is being relayed. It's a sad story, and that sadness, that darkness, that anger, that fear is what the dark side and the Empire twists, because they know they can control you by those strings. And that's where it's mainly introduced. Here comes Thrawn, and Thrawn offers her almost like this dark hope. It's like a dark hope that she's waiting for, you know? But what I also loved was she lied about why she does what she does. And Thrawn asked her for the real reason. All right, so it's not really for the Empire. So what's up with it? Why are you really here? And she's like, I want revenge. But that left me confused, bro. It left me confused because the people you're willing to work with are the ones that are technically the reason why your people are dead. So is your emotions causing you to be confused? Or is there an ulterior motive? I saw Ahsoka. Now I'm starting to think, wait, that last line when she dies isn't long live the Empire. She says it's for Dathomir. And I'm like, hold on. The connection to her people might be her ultimate play. And she thinks that this route of fear and dark hope is the way to get there. There's all these subtle nuances introduced, but it's just 1 or 2 lines, 3 or 4 lines. It was fire, bro. And I loved it. And I love Thrawn. So you get a lot of these cool lines about pilots being not taken care of, and that's going to be a disservice to the Empire later on. You would normally get these kind of lines from the books where you get to hear Thrawn's brilliant mind. I love getting to hear some more of his war tactics and him as a brilliant chess player. I thought that was also great. But just a couple points I really loved about this episode. What about you, man?
So what I was looking up right now, I had to make sure, what we see, interestingly enough, is Pelion come first to speak to her and just say, like, oh, things are going to be real to you. I just needed to be here to make sure that you were willing to fight for it. Her willingness to fight is something that stood out to me, because even after being told, yo, you ain't one of us by everyone on that planet, she's still fighting. She's fighting for her life. But that's strength that Pelion sees and that Thrawn sees. And so when Thrawn gets on the scene and he sees right through her, it just reminds me of why I love Thrawn, right? Yeah. Why is Thrawn such a compelling villain?
That voice, bro.
Why is he so damn cool? Why is his voice so
fire?
Just simple yet scary. And it was awesome to see him. Number one, this is the best he's ever looked.
Yeah, absolutely.
In my opinion.
Absolutely.
The show is beautiful. I just want to throw that out there too. The show is freaking glorious looking, but to have him look right through her and see, like, yeah, no, I'll help you, you just got to be honest with me. I think somewhere that struck her, like, you're not telling me that what I'm doing is wrong. You want to give me the tools, and all you're asking for is truth, honesty. And I think that's a great start to a relationship that we just see more and more of as time goes on.
Truly.
But you hit a lot, bro. You're hitting just seeing Thrawn and going into his mind and understanding his long-term game, because we are not even done with that yet. It's going to be interesting to revisit these episodes come the future, I think.
Yeah, and I also think what I liked about this is the relationship he has with Elsbeth in terms of the respect for Night Sisters. Like, he's not just gassing her. Like, he's not gassing her like, oh, you guys were formidable. Respect. It's like, nah, y'all are untapped potential. And I respect what you do. Like, you're from a place that I know has power, you know, and there's a respect as peers that I feel like is introduced in this scene. You see it in a lot of other scenes in Ahsoka. Even to their last moments. I mean, it's obvious that she's like a goon. She's almost like a goon of Thrawn's in Ahsoka, because there's so many other powerful characters that play in that season. But at the end of the day, I love the relationship that they have and how that fleshes out. But yeah, let's move on to episode 3, right? We've gone from fear to hate, and now, to anger, and now we're at hate. And what even is hate, right? What truly is hate in terms of what's the difference between anger and hate, and what does it look like for it to be wielded? I think that is the distinguishing factor here of the conclusion of her arc into darkness and into the things that the Empire can twist. We see that what's it called? Is it emissary? Ambassador. That's the word I'm looking for.
Of the New Republic.
Of the New Republic that grew up on Corvus, returns to Corvus, trying to make right what wasn't right, and she had left. We find that out. And we see that the same guy who had led his people on Corvus is still there. Now he's older. He's got his wrinkles. And it's like, dang, they've been under her tyranny after Thrawn gave her empire level of control over this whole planet.
Right. Right. And New Republic right away, that tells you at the very least it's been almost 30 years. So that's,
and I love how she's like, he's
how
like,
long it's
we
been.
don't receive information as fast as other places do here. I'm like, nah, bro, it's because you under control of the Empire, still trying to stay strong through Thrawn. That's kind of crazy. That's kind of crazy. I love that, bro. So fire. But yeah, what I loved about this season was a couple things. Hearing Katie Sackhoff come back as Bo-Katan on the other end of the transmitter was a big W. I love that. Another thing I enjoyed was seeing Elsbeth make the final leap to become this dark, hateful person, and then it being a mirror moment of what happens to Grievous. With General Grievous wiping out her people, she becomes no different than he was. She becomes the exact thing that spiked and started her path of fear and darkness. And that's the thing about the Sith, right? That's the thing about the dark side. The dark side is cyclical in the strings that it pulls on. These titles of episodes come straight from Yoda's mouth. You know what I mean? It's about fear. It's about anger. It's about hate. Those are the things that fuel the dark side. So I love that they were able to touch all 3 of these emotional points and the development along that journey for Elsbeth to conclude it where it did. And then it just passes us off to season 2 of Mando. And it's beautiful, man. It's just a beautiful telling of, she is just the vehicle for the dark side to have the front line, or the spotlight on it through her. She's just a medium for it. And I thought that was really cool. I love these first 3 episodes. Not as much as I loved the last 3, but they were still so good. So good.
I mean, I liked seeing how she became what once hurt her. The person in charge that is going to lay waste to somebody else's environment, and doing so with no care in the world. She did that. She burned down the forest. When I saw the forest was all beautiful, I was like, oh, it's going down. It's
going down, facts.
And I mean, we know, like you said, I'm glad you know it, bro. The Yoda.
Come on, bro.
Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. And the final part that doesn't play a role in episode titles, but is hate leads to suffering.
Mm.
You know, it's the story of Darth Vader and Anakin Skywalker. And my question for you before we move on to Barriss is, did Morgan face that suffering? I think her whole life.
Yeah, I think her life is suffering.
It's just, yeah, I think she resembles what Yoda said perfectly. And I mean,
she's suffering
once I finished
emotion.
this, right? Yeah, I mean, once these episodes finished, the first time I watched it, I was like, those were cool, but at the same time, I was like, how do I feel? Did this justify its reasoning to exist for me? Like, do I feel like these were valid enough to be what we got? And then, after watching it twice more and then having a conversation with people, I think I've landed on yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think these are very valid episodes. I think, unfortunately, of the 4 Tales characters that we've seen so far, this might be my least favorite of the stories told. Sure. But I still think that there's good stuff here that I think, if they ever wish to go even more deeper into, they are more than welcome to, and I'll be there. I'll be tuned in. So
yeah, bro. I think
was cool.
Again, she's just a medium. She's just a vehicle for them to get this point across. And yeah, you're right. The suffering is not just her lot. The suffering is in everything she touches. Everything she touches from the beginning of her story here to the end of the episode 3, she's killing. She doesn't bring life to much. And it's ironic because she's brilliant and she has these designs and she can create these things and bring them to life. That's something she's great at. And yet there's this, again, contrast of, everything she touches. It's almost like Midas touch, everything that you touch turns to gold. But what about when you need to touch the people you love, or you need to touch things to eat? Like your gift becomes a curse. They play with that concept here with the dark side. And I thought that was beautiful. So yeah, I think it's worth it. I'm not going to compare it to Ahsoka or Dooku or even, what's her name?
Barriss.
I'm not going to. I just love the dark side on this is an exposition on the dark side. That's what it is. This is an exposition on the dark side. Come on, let's go. I love that. So continuing the exposition, now we switch gears to Barriss's line instead of episodes. And the thing about Barriss is, obviously, if you've been rocking and you've watched along the way, and you got to season, is it 4 or 5? I think it's 5, right?
Season 5, The Wrong Jedi. Ooh.
Yeah, tell them about episode 4, bro. I mean, episode, what is that? Is it? I can't remember the episode number. I just know it's season 5.
So it's the almost very tail end of season 5. 4-episode arc of The Wrong Jedi, where Barriss, becomes disillusioned within the Jedi Order, and she bombs the temple, tries to frame Ahsoka for it, and when it's unveiled and she has her fight with Anakin Skywalker and all that, she states that the Jedi are going down a wrong path, and she had just become so disillusioned with it all that she kind of went nuts. And it's not the first time we see that in the Clone Wars series. We see it with Pong Krell. We see it with Count Dooku. We see it with other Jedi, And so what happened to Barriss? The last time we saw her was in 2010, 11, when this premiered on Cartoon Network. What happened? We know that her journey is what causes Ahsoka to leave the Jedi Order, because she understood that although Barriss blew up the temple and was doing wrong, she was right. What happened to Barriss has been a big question on everybody's mind. And so they brought it back, and they're like, we got a tale to tell, right? And so for me, as someone who remembers all that back then, I'm like, oh my God, what are we going to see? What does this journey look like? Everybody had their thoughts. Oh, she definitely became dark, or she probably just died, but now we get to see it. So before anything, what did you know about her before going into this? I know we did our Star Wars recap for last May 4th when we did the Siege of Mandalore episode, and you got to have an understanding. But what did you know about Barriss, or just all these concepts of her? Yeah,
I just knew that I had to go back and refresh my mind. I paused the episode 4 as it was starting when I heard Barriss, and I said, "Nah, I'm missing something." Went back, realized the connection in terms of it being the final launching point for Ahsoka. And I said, "Oh, okay, first off, the connection between the Tales of the Jedi to this is sick. That's very sick. I love that." But you know what I loved about this right from the beginning that I could tell is it ties back to something that was introduced in episode 4 of Ahsoka, this idea of a fallen Jedi. And it's deep. We got into an argument about that because we talked about fallen Jedi, gray Jedi. You can go back and listen to the episode, but this is an example of someone who's force sensitive, led in the ways of the Jedi, then comes to the cusp of the dark side and has a Cal Kestis type timing. And that's what happens in this episode. You know, we see darkness introduced to her as she is recruited to become an Inquisitor. We see the Grand Inquisitor, who we've seen a number of times, right? It was great to see his return. But I think the moment that made it worth it to go back and watch and then see this develop in her was the moment when she had to kill Dante. When the Inquisitor tells her she needs to, you two are going to kill each other. I need you to rid yourself of your old Jedi ways and tap into your darkness. And watching her force choke the crap out of Mance had me like, dang. And I think the reason why it had me like, dang, was because I just watched episode 1, 2, and 3 back to back to back, then went straight into 4. But I think if I had taken a pause between the first 3 episodes and then came back later, I think I would have felt differently. And now I do, because it's been some time since I watched it. She was just trying to survive. What would you do? You know? And then it makes you go, so if you do a dark thing, does it make you not a Jedi? Does it make you not good? These are the questions that Filoni is asking us to ask ourselves as consumers of this content, because those questions deepen the Force and the understanding of the journey of the Jedi and the Sith. And the Tales of the Jedi and the Empire are perfect places to do that kind of questioning. They're bite-sized lessons. They remind me of like Saturday morning cartoons, it kind of felt like. And honestly, for Star Wars month, I got to pause and say, if you're looking to start Star Wars and you just like listening to us talk and you haven't actually watched anything from Star Wars ever, this is fine. Start if you want. If you want to just start somewhere, like, you don't have to understand anything. It's still beautiful TV, still beautiful animation, still intriguing characters. Like, it's wild because these points that are introduced are major pillars that Filoni is playing with right now in the current time that he's building these stories out in. And so I love that Barriss becomes another level of that. She becomes an instrument of that kind of an analysis and introspection on the Force. And I would have done the same thing. I definitely would have killed my man Dante night time. You're donezo. You're clipped.
I mean, it's hard to forget. And so I always got to say, you got to remember, she's a kid. She's Ahsoka's peer. You know, we're not talking about 28-year-old men that are being forced to make these decisions. We're talking about teenagers that grew up devoted, which is the name of this episode, to a cultural lifestyle, and having that ripped from them, torn down, becoming disillusioned within it itself. It's fucked up.
It kind of reminds me of Shani from Dune 2. No, you good.
I think that when, first off, starting with Order 66 was crazy because we see Barriss struggling with that already. Like,
oh yeah.
Then we get to see Lynn, who she was the kind of background Inquisitor in the Obi-Wan Kenobi show that we were just kind of like, who the hell is this? They just needed another Inquisitor. Like, well, here we go. She was a part of the Jedi Order. Most of the Inquisitors were. They were just fallen Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
Then we get to see the Grand Inquisitor, who has become one of my favorite in the last 10 years of the new Disney era of Star Wars. One of my favorite characters. I just think he's so interesting. Great to see him here.
Facts.
The training to be an Inquisitor, that process is cool to see, and using Barriss as that tool, because we know how disenfranchised she became with the Jedi Order. Well, is this an order that she's willing to follow? Let's see if we can get her to train there first. And we see her not try to fight. We can already tell in this episode that there's pieces inside of her that don't believe that this is right either. Just because she was disenfranchised with one way doesn't mean that the opposite is willing to work for her. And we see the small beginnings here that it's not, but it's about survival.
Yeah.
And so she did what she needed to survive.
Yeah.
And then the episode ends with them bowing to Darth Vader. We know that Vader is the master of the Inquisitors. And I mean, I wasn't expecting him to be a main role in this at all. You know what I mean? I expected him to just be this small little thing, but overall people online seem to be complaining, but Vader wasn't used enough. But him, like, I get trying to say like him and Barriss should have had an interaction, because at the end of the day, he knows who that is and stuff. But I feel like at the end of the day, I don't think it necessarily matters. I don't think that the beef between Barriss and Anakin and Ahsoka in that moment mattered anymore. I think once everything that happens in Revenge of the Sith goes away, things change. Shit changes. And now I feel like, I don't know if it's because it's early on, maybe Vader just needed to play his role. Sometimes you got to play your role, you know? Because we know Vader dispatches Inquisitors like nothing. He'll do whatever he wants whenever he wants to. I just think it was more like a, what now, bro? You know, you got to move forward. But,
I think it deepens. I think it deepens the severing that happens from Anakin when he becomes Darth Vader. I think if there's any person that Anakin internally, if he was still in there somewhere deep down at this point, was going to want to come at, it's going to be the person that framed Ahsoka, for sure, without a doubt. But at the end of the day, it's like, it speaks volumes that she has her mask off and then puts her mask on. I think they did that, on purpose in the face of Darth Vader. I think they wanted us to fight about it. Like Drake and Kendrick want us to fight. Like they wanted us to fight, bro. And I think it was an interesting point of lore. I thought that's a very interesting point of lore. And it's, if we're talking about what's interesting about these episodes, it's the nuances, right? We're talking about, okay, survival. She's trying to survive. Well, Morgan Elsbeth was trying to survive too. Was she right for her survival and her decisions that she made? Anakin was just trying to survive too. He becomes something else in the act of survival, and the manipulation that happens to him in a weak point. We see that crumble on the end of his arc. We see how it comes back later in Ahsoka. So it's like you're getting more lore that helps add to lore, and the lore doesn't contradict. I think it complements. So when we go back to the initial question, was this important? Yes, I think it was, because it makes everything better and more substantial. And that being said, let's move on to a realization. Episode 5. This is a sad episode. This is a very emotional episode for me. I thought it was very sad. Particularly, it starts off with them in a ship on the way to go handle a mission, and it's the fourth sister, who we know as Lynn, and we see Barriss, and she's on her way. And there's this level of Barriss is still trying to be a good person while in bad robes, in bad outfit. You see the difference, and they do it on purpose. Where are the Jedi? We know they were there. No, there's no Jedi here. Hey, little guy. You can help everybody if. And what's funny is it's not manipulation like, oh, let me be sweet to a kid to trick him. She's being genuine, Yeah. And yeah, bro, I just thought that kid watching the whole town die on the other end of giving up the info.
That's traumatic, bro.
Traumatic, bro.
When he ran up and grabbed her leg, I said, oh, that's sad, because not only did it showcase, oh, well, this is who Barriss is, right? We never got to see Barriss for who she was from her perspective.
That's right.
We see her as the villain who bombed the temple, you know? But this is who she actually is. She was just lost with the Jedi, and this is the clarity she's needed. We see that, but then we also get to see this kid who found the genuineness that she gave and accepted that because
That's
he
right.
runs to her for protection.
That's right.
So you know that connection was real. That's what that showed me. And it was sad because she was just as lost as that kid when the fourth sister started going crazy on the town. And it was sad. It was. And you could kind of see her get ready, like, for a moment, like, oh, if she goes for this kid, what am I going to do? And then, you know, they leave the kid there. And I'm like, damn, that kid just lost everything. But right there, it sets up in our minds like, oh, Barriss isn't who we thought she was.
Right.
And there are people online that'll tell you that that's ass. And I don't think it's ass. I think that it's good. Because what this show and what Tales of the Jedi also did was put you in the perspectives of the characters that we don't always get to see. You don't get to see how Ahsoka feels post Order 66, you know, finding out that all of her friends are died, but now you do.
Yeah.
Hidden in the crowd at Padme's funeral. Or, Count Dooku, the guy who you've only ever see wield that red saber. Let's see how he became disenfranchised. And now when you watch a Dooku in Revenge of the Sith, Attack of the Clones, you think of him differently.
That's right.
And so Barriss is what they're doing that with also. It's who they're doing it with also.
Another vehicle.
So it was beautiful to see that genuine nature between her and the kid, because it showed that at the end of the day, who is Barriss? Well, let's talk about the top of the hill, bro. The top of the mountain. She's a Jedi.
Yep.
She's what the Jedi should have been. It's crazy to say after bombing the temple and killing people, but I mean,
she is, and that's what it is.
One bad deed, she was lost. All of them are. If we can call Anakin Skywalker a Jedi after saving Luke at the end of Return of the Jedi, we can call Barriss a Jedi.
She's a being, bro. They're Force-sensitive beings. You know what I mean? Like, and I love that. We're going to pause that. Notice I mentioned that. We're going to keep that over here. But, yeah. And then the conversations that she's having with the Jedi while about to fight her and trying to give the opportunity to olive branch out. I'm like, that's not no Inquisitor action. This Inquisitor's at your head like the cap I have on mine right now. It's over. You know what I mean? So then when Fourth Sister slashes and kills the Jedi, and they have that moment where she says, well, you have one more Jedi that you need to take care of. I was like, yeah, that's badass. That's hard. Because for you to go from, I don't F with the Jedi, I'm blowing your temple up, I'm disenfranchised, I'm devoted to the dark causes, to try it out and that order out for size enough to teeter on the line enough to make a conclusion that what you were born in is who you are still, to claim it and say, well, you got another Jedi to deal with. It's redemption. There's redemption in that scene. It was beautiful, you know, and I knew it wasn't over. Force Sister called me back at some point. You just, you know, we've seen too many people get force pushed off cliffs to not die. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, it's like there's a decision made right there in that moment. There's a line drawn in the sand for Barriss, and I love that pivot for her on the other end of her little journey that she had to go on. And I love that Filoni allows this concept to breathe a bit. Again, more of that fallen Jedi notion. Like you're saying, this is what a Jedi should be. She's a being. She makes mistakes. So now we get into episode 6, the final episode, The Way Out. And I think The Way Out is a great title. Like, it's like it's an entendre out the wazoo, you know? But I talked about the being thing because that is a question that the mother and the father ask Barriss. We come to this point where Barriss is a healer and she's being sent people that she's then helping to heal as they're injured or their journey or their whatever it is along the path. And it's cool that she's got people who are backing her up. It's obvious that she's on the right side of this whole battle, She's not with the Empire anymore. Since she drew her line in the sand, she's stuck with that path and where it's taken her. And immediately when you see her, she's older looking. What's up with that? Why is she older looking? Let's pause on that. Let's get back to the family. They've got a kid. Well, they're coming at the Empire, want to take our kid. We came to you. What's wrong with him? What's going on? Your kid is force sensitive. Is he a Jedi? Let's not say that. Let's not say that. She didn't say, let's say that. She didn't put no label on him. She didn't even call him force sensitive. Actually, she's sensitive to the label because she knows what that label did to her in her journey, what she was born in and had to remove and go through the path of shedding herself in or from to then readopt and claim it for herself and kind of be baptized in what it means to be a Jedi again. There's just weight in the way she says it in that moment. And before she can continue that conversation, Barriss, there's somebody coming. Yeah, the candle goes out. Why does fourth sister look so young? Why does she look the same she did when she got pushed off the cliff? Why does Barriss look so old? Bro, the fact that she devoted her life to giving her life to people, that John took my breath away. From that point forward, and then when they started fighting, I was like, oh yeah, nah, this is some of the best stuff I've seen from Star Wars, and I've been watching. We've been watching. This concept was fire. That was a fire concept. Jeez.
I mean, from my understanding, we had kind of an idea that Barriss was like a healer back at the temple. And so when it's brought back up here, it's almost like, ooh.
And it's hinted at in episode 5, like, I won't let you die to the Jedi. You know, right. We assume that Jedi got healed by Barriss too.
And so when I first see her, I'm like, oh damn, she's older. But I, timeline, canon, those are in my head. So I'm now looking for clues. Where is this? When is this happening? She looks older. Okay, someone's coming. Who's it gonna be? Oh, it's the fourth sister. Okay. I need to see how the rest of this episode plays out. But Barriss looks older. She looks the same. It's the time of the Empire, which means it's still somewhere within 20 years. So she's not looking older because of old age. Yep. She is giving her life. I loved that, just the way you did. I loved that for her because it shows that selflessness that a Jedi should have. Barriss is a Jedi. I don't give a shit what anybody says. She's a Jedi.
Absolutely.
And then when the episode continues and she's confronted with the fourth sister isn't focused on her still. She wants that baby. She wants to go and hunt that child down. And Barriss is like, oh, I'm gonna keep you away from that. No weapons. Just weave, dodging and weaving, in tune with her body, with herself, just moving with the Force. Yeah. Not with the Force, you know what I'm saying? But trusting that the Force is with her and just weave, maneuver. It was so clean where I was like, yo. And then when the time came and she was like, all right, if you want to go get lost, go ahead. I don't recommend it. But if this is the journey you wish to go, you can go ahead. But if you go alone, you're going to be lost.
Yeah.
And those coming out of that coming out of her mouth is just so crazy because it's like she's been there.
Yep.
We're big on characters here that choose the pathways they go on and come out of it. That's why we love people like Prince Zuko so much.
That's right.
And so to see, okay, I walked that path. If you want to, you can. Because I know how it ends. You could take that walk.
It's big wisdom.
So going into that ice cavern maze and doing all of that and letting the family and getting them out, they got out and she kind of starts doing the voiceovers inside the cave. Oh, she's confusing her. She's speaking to her. She's trying to dive deep into her, appeal to her humanity. You're lost. I can help you. Let me help you. This is Barriss that we're talking about, bro. Yeah. And then she turns around and stabs her. And you're like, oh, whiplash. What the fuck? Like,
right.
And she falls and you're like, oh my God, how's this going to play out? I can still help you find your way out. And you're like, damn, even while she's sitting here dying,
she's at peace, bro.
And Lynn says, I'm not going to let you die here.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting out of here together. Which means Barriss changed lives. And for my psycho brain, okay, this takes place after Obi-Wan Kenobi because she was on that show as an Inquisitor. And we're assuming she's given that up here.
Yeah, she leaves her blade. Her
and
saber.
So she walks out with Barriss. Is she alive? Is she dead? Well,
yeah.
I'm afraid that's not our story right now. Our story completed.
You know, what you're saying is exactly it, man. This isn't as much about Elsbeth or Barriss as it is about the dark side, and those two being vehicles that are used for the storytelling of the dark side, of what happens when you're presented with something that fills you with fear that can then turn and infect itself into anger and then becomes hate and then leads to suffering. Elsbeth had a path that led to suffering and suffering for everyone around her. But Barriss and the decisions that she made along the journey led to peace. And in that last episode, that's all I see on her is peace. Peace when they say, oh, we'll come back for you. She's like, nah, I'm good. Peace because she knew that this person was going to come find her eventually. And between the last time she saw her and then she had done so much, we're only left to assume she must have had an interaction with, I would assume, Ahsoka. There's somebody that you can bring them to. Maybe. Who would it be? Who is she saying that her friend will go? I'm my guess is Ahsoka. I mean, we have no answers. My only guess
would be Ahsoka Tano for both these stories, to be honest.
If so, then maybe we'll get an opportunity to see that conclusion. Maybe we won't. Who knows if there's more Tales of the Jedi coming with that in it. But I also love it for the same reason I love in episode 4, where we don't see a conclusive conversation between Darth Vader and Barriss. I like this notion that there's peace made here, that you could see it on her as a character. The thing she even did wrong that incited this last leg of her journey to choose to fully be the Jedi she always was, even that has been redeemed. Redemption. It's not suffering. It's redemption on the other end of the light. And that's what it means to be a Jedi. It's to make right what was wrong. It's this act of a night of redemption. That's what it's supposed to be about. And she is that fully. And I love how you mentioned the cave. I feel like the cave was also super cool. I love Force virginces. I love like Cave of Evil on Dagobah and like, I love that. And I think that was what was happening. The cave, you choose if you're going to get through the cave based on what you bring into the cave. And that's what she tried to warn her of. You know, she kept slashing at herself. And then that line, bro, the dark side is not your ally. It's your master. Hard. The last line, one of the last lines of the whole 6 episodes. That same line could be said for Elsbeth. Right? Like, so good. They left a lot of doors open, a lot of conversations, and they purposefully had this fourth sister conclusion. And, you know, it looks like since we don't see a lot of fourth sister after this point, I would assume this is when then Rebels would take over. And then the Rebels series kind of goes on from this point forward, I guess, in the timeline. But I just love it, man. I love that these very I just love it, man. I love that these very important conversations are being introduced in these small episodes. They don't have to be longer than 15 minutes, yet they say so much. They mean so much. They add so much to the already existing lore. This is what Star Wars is all about. This is why it's the greatest universe of all time. I'm not hearing anybody else. I'm not hearing. Not a single Disney Plus show of Marvel has done what these little 15-minute episodes is doing. They're packing crazy punches. I enjoyed this, bro. I enjoyed the whole thing. So kind of putting a bow on this episode for everyone that's listened to us geek out about these 6 episodes. What do you think, bro? Do you feel like we need more of these? Do you think we'll be getting more of them? Do you think there's a Tales of the blank instead of the Jedi and the Empire? We get something else, maybe the Rebels, or maybe I don't know. Like, what do you think?
Well, you know, I was going to pose a question, actually. I mean, for starters, just to complete my empire, like, the show, to me, was worth it. It was worth it. I want more Jedi. I want more of Empire. And I want more of clones. Or rebellion. Or Resistance, whatever you got to do, I'm there, There are stories that I want to tell. I wish I was out there working for Lucasfilm. To be honest with you, I would love it.
You say that all the time. That's mad funny.
I mean, I'd love to be in the room, bro, just to pitch an idea and say, I could do this. Let me try, bro. We are Disney. Let me try. Just you take risks. Take risks. Let me do my Tales of the Jedi episode about Rey. I got 3 episodes in my mind about Rey. I'm not going to lie. I got 3 episodes of a Rebellion show that I want to write about Jar Jar Binks. And I'm being fully dead ass. I want a 3-episode Jar Jar Binks. I got it in my head. I could make you cry. I guarantee you, I could make you cry.
Fire.
And I think that Tales of the Jedi would be an interesting space to explore things that fans have wanted forever. I do think it's important to create new stories, but I also think it's important to give fans things that they want. And what you said, maybe there's a place to tell if Barriss and Ahsoka connected. I think, yes, there is. I think that Luke Skywalker and Ahsoka Tano, to see how they first met, we have not seen that. And we know how important it is to have Auntie Ahsoka meet Luke Skywalker. We've never seen it, and we know that they met, and we know that Dave Filoni has publicly stated that he knows how they met. So I think these are the spaces to tell those interesting stories. And I think what's cool about these shows is that everybody says, oh, we want more. And could Barriss' story have been done way more in depth with a full 6-episode, 30-minute stories? Of course.
Sure.
Of course it could have, but I don't necessarily think it needed to. And I think that it could still be done. I don't think knowing her end, like we said last week, means that it's done. Knowing Morgan's death in Ahsoka doesn't mean that these episodes are pointless. Knowing Vader's end in Return of the Jedi doesn't mean that the prequels are pointless. That's what's beautiful about Star Wars. And this is what you and I and Steven were saying last week, that this universe is beautiful because you can sew your way through an already sewn thing and just create more stitches along the way that you're like, oh, that's awesome. That's beautiful. I didn't know that I would love Barriss' story as much as I did. I didn't think I would love it the way I do. I considered after that first watch, did I like these 3 more than Dooku's 3? And after watching it all again, I think Dooku overall as his story is still the best that we've been told. But 3 consecutive episodes, Barriss really did good.
I thought so.
And so for me, I'm taking Tales of the Sith, Jedi, Rebellion, Resistance, whatever you want to throw at me, I'll take. Give me droids. Sure, I'll take it. Give me bounty hunters. Give me the Cad Bane story, the Boba Fett story, the Mandalorians, whatever you want to do, as long as you put the heart and it has meaning to it. I'm there, man. I'm there. I truly am. Do you have anything that you may want? Is there any stories you may want? Because like I said, I got my Rey and Jar Jar, but I want to work on those myself. I don't want someone else doing that, bro. I want those. I want those. Give me a Ben Solo one, Disney. Work on a Ben Solo one for yourselves, and then give me the Rey and Jar Jar.
Yeah, I think a Ben Solo is a necessity. I 100% think that would be great. I think I would always want more Kanan. I'll never say no to Kanan ever.
Caleb Doom, bro. They got a lot to tell with Caleb Doom.
I think that would be beautiful. And I'm a Rebels guy, so Ezra's time not in our galaxy, and what that looked like for him, what training looked like for him in that time, how the Force mentored him while he was out there. I think that would be really special to see put to screen. There's so many different things they can do, bro. Honestly, they could do so much, man. I think at the end of the day, like you said, Star Wars is a beautiful thing that rhymes, and you can go so many different angles with it. No matter where they go, if they treat it with love the way these 6 episodes felt they were treated, I'll be there, and I'll be jacking it the entire time. I'm there with my popcorn, So I'm looking forward to continuing the conversation this month, man, because it's Star Wars month here at Cuzzo-Op. And we're not done. We're not done with these conversations. Next week, we're going to take some time to talk about another little batch of individuals and a season that just concluded over there, you know what I mean, from the beginning to the end on Alpha and Omega. Anyways, listen, bro, I'm excited. I'm excited for a great month. Thank you so much for listening to Two Geeks. We'll talk about Star Wars when it's a major pillar of Cuzzo-Op, major pillar of our content that we have here. So I'm just really looking forward to continuing to put out great episodes and see your interactions with us in the YouTube comments. Reply to us on Spotify. Share us with your friends, especially because it's Star Wars month. Everyone's talking about Star Wars. You might as well send it. Hey, I heard this combo and it had me like, yeah, facts. I agree. And look out for some more extras. You might see some more come out this month. But as always, every time you tap into Cuzzo-Op, you're always going to find three things. That's two cousins, one podcast, and endless entertainment. May the force be with you.